Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 197. Without any delay, start explanation. Shu Lixi rolled his eyes. Nonsense, my eyes are only on Yuan and Yehui and Shu Xiaoyan. I'm thinking who I should profess to. You have a death wish, don't you? Yu Jingyu and Xie Xie replied in unison again. Shu Lixi looked at the two of them and broke into laughter. You two are looking more and more like a couple with each passing day. I'll be off then. After he finished, he squeezed out of the door and immediately took off. He ran so quickly that he seemed to be flying. Xie Xie and Yu Jingyu exchanged looks. Yu Jingyu suddenly leaped backward and said to Xie Xie in all seriousness, "Keep your distance. Let's keep our distance from now on. It's you who should be far away from me." The news of Dai Yuna and Long Yu coming to Shrek Academy as inner court disciples spread like wildfire. The information spread throughout the entire inner court in no time. Although the others knew nothing about them, this generation of the Shrek 7 monsters was too familiar with them. Long Yu's invincibility was deeply ingrained in their hearts. If it were not for Tang Wulin and Ji Yu, with their earth element imprisonment and bloodline suppression, along with the final divine dragon transformation, they could not possibly have defeated such a powerful opponent. After the competition, even Wu Zhongkong said that he was not sure if they could defeat Long Yu if they had fought one-on-one. Long Yu was regarded as a rare talent in Star Luo Empire, and was possibly one that had not appeared for 100 years. It was apparent just how powerful he was. "What did you say?" Shu Xiaoyan's scream could be clearly heard even if one were a few hundred meters away. She was not the only one. Even the other members of Shrek 7 monsters were staring at the duo who stood before them with mouths agape. Upon entering the inner court with the arrangements made by the academy's staff, they finally met Dai Yuna and Long Yu who had come from afar. What they heard next was truly shocking. "What we said is true," said Dai Yuna seriously. "We've just received word that Tang Wulin is returning to Doluo continent on a steamer provided by Tang Sect's headquarters in Star Luo City. There are risks during a journey by sea, but Tang Sect steamers are one of the most reliable mode of transportation. That's why we rushed here as quickly as we could." "Hasn't he returned?" Upon receiving the information about Tang Wulin, the Shrek 7 monsters, with the exception of Ji Yu who was calm and silent, were all in shock. "He's not dead? Our captain's really not dead? He's alive even though the small world has collapsed." Xie Xie squalled and pranced around. His expression was one of utmost excitement. Yu Jingyu also swung his arm forcefully. Dai Yuna's eyes flickered with a strange light. "I was also astonished. I thought that he was. Fortunately, he's still alive. I trust the information given by Tang Sect is accurate. We'll just have to wait for him to show up." Yi Xinglan could be regarded as one of the calmer ones. She looked at Dai Yuna and asked, "Why are you looking for Tang Wulin?" Dai Yuna smiled graciously, "It's because I have something important, of course. He's my man. Since I have information about him, I need to see him for myself." "What did you say?" Everyone stared at Dai Yuna with their mouths agape. What they heard shocked them even more than knowing that Tang Wulin was still alive. Dai Yuna could not help blushing. Acting coy, she said, "We were both fighters of Tang Sect's Battle Soul Hall and were assigned on a mission to explore the small world. He was White 3, while I was White 7. Through sheer coincidence, we were paired together. While sojourning in Dragon Valley, we had spent a few months together. When you spend that much time with someone, you're bound to have feelings for them. The rest just happened naturally. Following that, during one of our exploits, we were all of a sudden in grave danger. He sent me out ahead of himself to protect me. Later, we lost all contact with him. All these years, I've been searching for him as I've always believed that he'll be all right. Not too long ago, I received some information on him. He's my fiancé, so it's only natural that I come to meet him. All of you are his best friends. When he shows up, you must tell him that I'm here. If he's willing to return to Star Luo continent with me, he'll be the Emperor's son-in-law. On the other hand, if he truly does not wish to come with me, then I'll stay here. I'm willing to be just a civilian as long as we're together. As they listened to Diuna's confession, their expressions turned incredulous. Everyone was subconsciously gazing at Guu. However, to everyone's surprise, Guu remained calm and did not show the slightest change in her expression. I thank the both of you for bringing the news regarding Tang Wulin, but he hasn't returned. We've also been waiting for him. If there's nothing else, let's adjourn this meeting, said Guu dryly. As soon as she gave her reply, she turned around and left. Diuna had an air of triumph in her demeanor. She said with a smile, I'll be waiting for him here. I believe that he'll be back at the academy once he returns. The others said nothing. The Shrek 7 monsters followed Guu out. Guu, don't listen to her. When the princess was talking just now, there was something odd about her voice. She didn't sound like she was telling the truth. Besides, how old were they 3 years ago? Captain was only 15 then. How could they end up being together just because they spent a few months together? Yi Xinglan remarked softly. Xie said, but she's come all the way to our academy. If there's truly nothing, why would she be in such a hurry? No matter what, it's still great news that our captain is well. We'll let him handle this matter when he returns. The others nodded in agreement. Such matters were best left to the person concerned. How he's faring has nothing to do with me. Guu suddenly hastened her footsteps and left in a rush. Of all times, he has to return now. Just when I finally decided to leave a few months later. Why are you returning at this point in time? You know it hasn't been easy for me to remain calm. But now, it's a mess all over again because of your return. Why did you come back? Why did you have to come back now? What do we do? The others all looked at each other. We'll have to wait until Captain returns. It's best we let him attend to the relationship issues himself. Yu Zhengyu shrugged. They definitely had no way of making the decision for Tang Wulin. In any case, they were in high spirits. Tang Wulin was fine, and he was coming back. What news could be better than this? A few days later, at Shrek Academy's main gate. When Tang Wulin alighted from the Soul taxi and saw the tall gateway, he felt as though an entire generation had passed since he left. He only knew how long he had stayed in the Dragon Valley. It was a full 3 years and 4 months. He had accomplished the great feat of burying the remains of the Dragon clan for a period of 40 months. He was 18 years old now, turning 19. Everyone must have grown up by now. Since I've been away for so long, I wonder how much has changed within the academy. My comrades, I've returned. Are you all still with the academy? Enea, I've returned, and I've made you worried. With all these feelings of turmoil within him, Tang Wulin took off toward Shrek City's gateway. Upon reaching the gateway, he unabashedly kissed the wall. The feeling of coming home warmed his heart immensely. Everything seemed so familiar the moment he stepped into Shrek City. Tang Wulin eagerly went to the familiar noodle shop which Shulishi had frequented with him before. Without hesitating, he ordered 10 large bowls of noodles and gulped them down. After he used the Dragon Ball to leave the Dragon Valley, he discovered that the cabin on the cliff was empty. With no other options available, he found a way to get out of the forest by himself. After some time and much trouble, he eventually found a car that brought him back to Star Luo City. When he reached Star Luo City, he requested help from Tang Sect. Fortunately, Tang Sect owned a commercial steamer that traveled between the 2 continents. He had also obtained information about the diplomatic corps from Tang Sect and found out they had returned to Doluo continent more than 2 years ago. Therefore, after Tang Wulin paid a certain amount of contribution points, he boarded Tang Sect's steamer which was headed toward Doluo continent. This steamer had encountered a few attacks from oceanic soul beasts which delayed his arrival somewhat. However, he still managed to return nonetheless. This was the feeling of coming home. This feeling was truly too wonderful for him. Tang Wulin had never thought that there would be a day where he would love Shrek Academy this much. The 10 bowls of noodles entered his stomach. His excited feelings had also calmed down somewhat. With everybody's talents and strengths, They must have entered the inner court by now. After 3 years, they should have already reached the level of one-word battle armor masters by now. However, When he thought about this, Tang Wulin could not help but be slightly depressed. He had spent more than 3 years in Dragon Valley. Although his blood essence had improved a lot and his body's strength has reached the level at which it struck fear into people's hearts just by the mention of it, his soul power had not grown in the slightest because it was sealed for more than 3 years. He was still at a cultivation base of 4 rings. Maybe it was due to the passage of time. He was currently at rank 44. When he was 15 years old, he was at rank 44, and that was powerful enough. However, he was almost 19 years old now, and he was still at rank 44. He might pass as above average among ordinary people, but he would not be that outstanding in Shrek Academy. It must be known that if a person had not reached the level of a one-word battle armor master by the time they reached 20, they would be disqualified from entering Shrek Academy. This time, after my return, I must utilize all the time that I can get. I can't get left too far behind by my companions. After he ate his fill, he paid the bill. Tang Wulin ran straight toward Shrek Academy's inner court. He knew very well that his companions must be there. More importantly, it has been more than 3 years since he had met his younger sister. He decided to look for Enea first. Enea must have been very worried about him. He would go and report to her before anything else. When he walked up to the entrance of Shrek Academy's inner court, Tang Wulin discovered that he could not go in. There were now 2 guards who stood at the inner court's entrance. They were both inner court disciples. Without an inner court identity certificate, nobody was allowed to enter the inner court. Tang Wulin took out his soul communication tool which had not been used for more than 3 years. He recharged it with his own soul power and dialed the familiar number. The ringtone rang for a moment before the other end was connected. There was no sound. After the call went through, there was no sound from the other end. Enea? Tang Wulin called out probingly. Shortly after, Tang Wulin felt as if his eardrums were about to be broken from the volume. A scream came from the other end of the transmitter. Tang Wulin was startled with a jump. He almost threw the soul communicator in his hand away. Even the 2 guards heard the shrill voice that came from the transmitter. Brother, is that you? Is that you? Enea's excited voice reached him instantly, which made Tang Wulin felt that his veins had expanded without him being able to help it. When he heard that familiar voice, he almost cried. It's me, Enea, it's me. I'm back. Where are you? Where are you now? Tang Wulin asked hastily, his words jumbled up. I'm on Sea God's Island. Brother, where are you? Enea's breathing obviously became hurried. Tang Wulin said, I'm outside the inner court's gates. There are guards now, I can't get in. Wait for me there. Enea left him with these 4 words. Tang Wulin immediately heard a whistling wind from the transmitter. Brother, don't you hang up. I'll be right there. Okay, I'll wait for you. Currently, Tang Wulin's face was a complete picture of excitement. Almost within a dozen breaths, Tang Wulin saw a beam of silver light flying toward him as quick as lightning from within the inner court. He did not even have the time to react when that silver light had already rushed into his embrace. Fragrance filled his nostrils. That beautiful and elastic frame stuck close to him in his embrace, and his vision was now filled with silver long hair. Tang Wulin's heart trembled. He did not have to ask to know who it was that pounced into his embrace. Enea has gotten taller, her body was well developed, and she was a young woman now. She was very tall and was only half a head shorter than Tang Wulin, who was already taller than 1.9 meters. She leaped and locked her legs around Tang Wulin's waist with her arms tightly around his neck. Tang Wulin did all he could to pull her hemline lower so that she would not be exposing her inner glory. The 2 inner court disciples who stood guard at the entrance were already flabbergasted. Silver hair. There was only one such person in the academy. She was the person known as Sea God's Island's goddess. Dragon Spear Goddess, Enea. Enea was already given the nickname Dragon Spear Goddess more than 3 years ago. Although Enea seldom made an appearance, she had crushed a group of experts in an inner court tournament. With her silver dragon spear, which was honed to perfection, she had defeated all her opponents and became the greatest expert among the inner court disciples. She could be regarded as the goddess of the entire inner court. She was the goddess of every male inner court disciple. On usual days, this dragon spear goddess always stayed on Sea God's Island, which was off-limits to ordinary inner court disciples. Even simply meeting her was very difficult for them. If they could have a word with her, they would be so happy that they would faint. However, in this current moment, their perfect goddess in their hearts was surprisingly stuck intimately on a man's body, and not in the most becoming of manners. As they witnessed her excited expression, it was exactly like Tang Wulin gently caressed Enea's long hair with one hand and silently made a gap between his body and hers with his other hand. The current Enea was not the Enea from all those years ago. She had grown up. When her women's special part stuck intimately onto his body, this made Tang Wulin slightly awkward, even if he was her brother. "Come now, don't cry, Enea. Brother has returned. It's all brother's fault, I've made you worry." "Brother?" When they heard this, the two inner court disciples who stood guard were immediately filled with a profound respect. He was surprisingly the Sea God's Island's great goddess's big brother. They had been refusing to let him into the inner court before this. "What are we supposed to do now? You should have told us your identity sooner. Even if it's against the rules, we won't bar you from entering." Tang Wulin patted Enea's long legs. Enea got down and stood in front of him. In the next moment, under the stares of the two guards with their mouths agape, she raised her head and gave him 2 kisses on each cheek. She only loosened her arms around him after that. When he looked at Enea up close, Tang Wulin could not help but felt his heart beat faster. Enea was truly too beautiful. Her long silver hair fell freely behind her, her purple eyes were brilliant and sparkled like purple crystals. Her body was slender, she had a slim waist and long legs. She had grown wonderfully. Her big eyes were moist as they looked at him. She looked as wronged as one could be. The Tang Wulin in Enea's eyes had changed as well. Compared to more than 3 years ago, he was taller and bigger. The beauty he had in his youth had turned into his current handsomeness. His gaze was deep and penetrating. His body was already full of the masculinity of a man. "Brother, you've been away for more than 3 years in one go. I've not heard from you ever since. I miss you so much I can die." Enea pounced back into Tang Wulin's embrace and started crying loudly. Tang Wulin hastily hugged her and comforted her. "Don't cry, don't cry. Haven't I come back now? Brother won't leave you again, all right? You can't leave anymore, ever." Enea suddenly raised her head and looked at Tang Wulin with teary eyes. "Brother, do you love me?" "I do. Of course I do. You're my most treasured Enea." Tang Wulin smiled and pinched her nose. Enea smiled as well. "I'll hold you to that. Can I go in now? Is everyone in the inner court as well?" Tang Wulin asked Enea. Enea nodded. "They've all entered the inner court, and they are the new generation of Shrek 7 monsters. They are very popular right now. Did you not become one of the Shrek 7 monsters as well?" Tang Wulin looked at Enea with shock. He remembered that before he left, Enea was already very strong. Enea shook her head. "I don't want to. Brother, let's go. Let's get inside first, I'll tell you everything as we walk." Then, she pulled on Tang Wulin and they walked toward the inner court. When they reached the entrance, she smiled at the two guards with her pillously beautiful face which was like a pear blossom bathed in rain. The two of them were stunned, and Enea pulled Tang Wulin as they entered. "Is this all right?" said Tang Wulin as he stared with his mouth agape. Enea giggled. "I'm your access card." The inner court was still the same. There were the familiar statues at the end of the road. The statues were routinely maintained, and they remained firm and looked as though they were new every time. Enea pulled Tang Wulin all the way to the edge of Sea God Lake. "Brother, let's go to Sea God's Island first. I have something to tell you." As she said this, Enea took a step forward. Suddenly, a layer of silver light suddenly shone on her body. Spots of silver light flickered on her joints. These silver light were like silver stars that shone with brilliant light. In the next instant, pieces of armor covered Enea's body. When Tang Wulin saw the heavy and complicated patterns on her silver armor and the pair of silver dragon wings which unfurled behind her, the words escaped his mouth, two-word battle armor. Also, this was not only a couple of pieces of two-word battle armor, but it was also a complete set of two-word battle armor. They had not met each other for more than 3 years and Enea was already a two-word battle armor master. On the other hand, he was not even a one-word battle armor master. Enea smiled beautifully. She raised a hand and pulled on Tang Wulin before wings on her back started flapping, bringing them both into the air as they leaped. A gentle soul power enveloped their bodies. Tang Wulin could faintly sense that Enea's soul power was extremely dense. It was not at a level which he could hope to be compared with. Their bodies flickered and before he knew it, they were already in the skies of Sea God Island. She retracted her wings and brought Tang Wulin with her as they floated down. Then, the battle armor turned into specks of light and fused into Enea's body once more. Enea, you're already a two-word battle armor master. If I'm correct about the months, you've only just turned 16, right? My heavens! You must be the continent's youngest two-word battle armor master. You probably broke the record. Tang Wulin looked at Enea with an astonished expression. Although he and his companions were already highly talented and were working very hard, he could be completely certain that his companions could not possibly attain the level of a two-word battle armor master in such a short period of time. This talent of Enea's is truly unnatural. Even if it was that long he was almost 20 years old when he became a two-word battle armor master. From the looks of Enea's, the soul power emanating from Enea's body, she would be very close being a soul emperor even if she did not have the 6-ringed cultivation base required of one. He was surprised that his own younger sister had attained such a powerful level. Although Tang Wulin had not reached the point of feeling inferior, the shock he felt inwardly was quite huge. Enea giggled. All these aren't important. What's important is that you've come back. As she said this, she pulled on his arm and ran toward the interior of Sea God Island. Enea was all too familiar with this place. They made a series of turns and she brought Tang Wulin to a little wooden hut constructed on the hillside. The wooden hut was not big, it was a small apartment, but it was very clean and refreshing. The air on Sea God Island was definitely the freshest among all the places Tang Wulin had visited before. Even the air in the middle of the forest could not compare with this. There was a table, chairs, and a wooden bench inside the wooden hut. There was also a cupboard and a hammock. There was a layer of large dark green leaves on the hammock, the material was unknown. Enea, do you normally live here? Asked Tang Wulin. Enea nodded. Yep. I live here. I like it very much. She pushed Tang Wulin and made him sit down on the chair. Then, she poured him a glass of water. When she shoved the glass of water into Tang Wulin's hands, her eyes could not help but reddened again. Big brother, do you know how much I've missed you all these years? Have you been thinking of me at all? What took you so long to come back here? When he saw Enea's reddened eyes, Tang Wulin could not help but felt a stabbing pain in his chest. He sighed softly and said, I should have been back a long time ago, but something happened. There was something that I must do and I used 3 years just to finish that task. That's why I came back this late. Every time I felt sleepy or tired, I'd think of you and everyone else to regain my motivation. Although this has taken 3 years of my time, I don't regret it. A man mustn't leave something undone when he wants to get something done. After I've taken care of that matter, I felt more at ease. When I cultivated my soul power on my journey back, it felt much smoother and better, there were no distractions. Throughout my voyage of several months, my soul power had increased by 2 ranks. This was unthinkable if it were the old me. Yes, throughout the voyage which lasted for a few months, his soul power cultivation base had increased from rank 44 when he had just left Dragon Valley to rank 46. What was more important was that he had connected 2 more of his 8 extraordinary meridians. The other 4 of the 8 extraordinary meridians had become a few times tougher compared to what it was before. Currently, Tang Wulin was very confident in his ability to continue breaking through and reach greater heights of strength. Brother, you must have suffered a lot. Enea pulled on Tang Wulin's hand. Tang Wulin smiled. Not really. It's just that I felt a little lonely sometimes. I was alone in that place. He had never feared pain and exhaustion since he was already tempered from his forging days since his youth. Throughout this period of slightly more than 3 years, the greatest torture he experienced was loneliness. If he could not talk with the dragon bones, Tang Wulin truly suspected that he would go crazy. However, he had made it through it all. Currently, his mind was unimpeded, he was at peace with his own bloodline, and he felt connected to the other Golden Dragon King abilities that were still sealed. All these made Tang Wulin understand that what he did was right. His understanding of himself might seem insignificant now, but once his cultivation actually reached a certain level, it would have extraordinary meaning. What about you, Enea? I see that you're already a 2-word battle armor master. Has your cultivation base exceeded 6 rings? When Tang Wulin saw Enea nodding her head slightly, he could not help but feel astonished in his heart, although he had pretty much guessed the answer. 16 years old, and she was a 6-ring Soul Emperor. Such a record might not have even existed, let alone be reached again. Moreover, she had to craft her own battle armor. This needed a lot of time and energy. Enea's condition could no longer be described as being immensely gifted with natural talent. Tang Wulin raised a thumb to Enea. What about my companions? How's everybody doing right now? Enea replied, from what I know, they were pretty depressed when you didn't come back. However, after becoming the Shrek 7 monsters, they are now subjects of public attention. They worked hard in their cultivation. I think it was about a year ago when everyone's cultivation base had at least reached 5 rings. Even before that, they were all 1-word battle armor masters already. As for their current cultivation bases, I'm not too sure about that. Everyone was of a 5-ringed Soul King rank and a 1-word battle armor master? I must have affected the crafting of their 2-word battle armors by not coming back, right? After all, it's not easy to forge a 2-word battle armor with spirit metals. Tang Wulin raised a hand and caressed Enea's head. Enea, I haven't reported myself to the academy since I got back. I'll go meet my teachers and report to them. We'll talk later. Enea said hastily, what's there to report about? Although you didn't return 3 years ago, the academy had already granted you permission to enter the inner court with them because of your contribution to the academy. In other words, as long as you return, you're an inner court disciple. I think that you should look for the Scarlet Dragon Dolor, Grandpa Shwasha. That old man will certainly take care of everything for you. Then, oh wait. There's a grand occasion in the academy today. I bet that your friends are busy preparing for it right now. If you show up now, you're bound to affect their work. Why don't you give them a surprise instead? Tang Wulin was slightly stunned. What grand occasion? Enea smiled mysteriously and said, it's the Sea God Fated Date Festival. Tang Wulin was stunned. Sea God Fated Date Festival? The dating festival of the inner court? Of course he had heard about the Sea God Fated Date Festival before. The only thing was that he was not entirely sure about its rules. When he heard Enea mentioning it now, he realized that he was already at the age where he was eligible to take part in the date festival. For some time, he could not help but felt all kinds of emotions in his heart. How time flew. He was already an adult. Enea mumbled a few sentences in Tang Wulin's ear. Tang Wulin's eyes flickered and a faint smile also appeared on his face. You're saying that every single inner court disciple above 18 years old must participate in the Sea God Fated Date Festival? Enea giggled and said, yes, yes. Actually, according to the official rules of the continent, a person is already considered an adult at 16 years old. That's why I'm also an adult right now. I've obtained special permission from the teachers and I can participate in this year's date festival. I heard that this will better stimulate the competition between the students and increase everyone's motivation to cultivate in the future. This was the truth. Tang Wulin was unaware that his little sister was known by the name of Dragon Spear Goddess in the inner court. When the officials announced that the 16-year-old Dragon Spear Goddess would also be taking part in this year's date festival, even the inner court disciples who were on assignment far away rushed back to the academy. Everyone was a proud son of God. Who could be sure that they would not be fancied by the Dragon Spear Goddess? Enea's appearance, strength, and her identity as the direct disciple of the Sea God Pavilion Master befitted her status at the pinnacle of the student circle. She was also the goddess of every male student. You taking part as well? No, no, said Tang Wulin sternly. Enea looked shockingly at him and asked, why not? With a sense of righteousness, Tang Wulin said, you're still so young, how can you possibly take part in some date festival? As your elder brother, I don't approve. Enea broke into a laugh. Brother, I've never taken you to be a conservative. Tang Wulin said seriously, I'm your brother, it's only natural that I'll be responsible for you. You're not allowed to have any romantic relationships before you turn 18, is that clear? Also, even if you fancy someone, you must have my approval first before you involve yourself with him. My little sister is so beautiful that I can't be cavalier about the company you keep. Enea giggled. Don't worry, brother. If I do have someone that I like, I'm sure that you'll approve of him as well. Tang Wulin was astonished. You truly have someone that you like? Enea nodded. Of course I do. I like you. Tang Wulin laughed hysterically and said, you silly girl, stop making fun of me. You can take part in this date festival if you like, for fun that is. But you mustn't go pick someone on a whim. All right, all right. I know that already. Even if I like someone, I must get your approval. Are you happy now? Said Enea with a smile. That's more like it, said Tang Wulin with satisfaction. All right, I'm going off to visit Grand Teacher. Which way should I take? It's been so long since I came here last, I'm not familiar with the place. Enea said, I'll take you there, and then we'll go visit our teacher. After that, let's meet back here at my place. Oh, don't give your comrades a soul call. Just surprise them during the date festival. Tang Wulin smiled and nodded. Okay, I'll do it your way. Date festival, was it? That familiar face kept appearing in Tang Wulin's mind. He couldn't help it, and his emotions were soon in turmoil. He was a young man, after all. How could he not have appreciated an event such as the Sea God's Lake Date Festival? The only thing was whether he could participate in this date festival. Tang Wulin's heart trembled a little with his face's expression becoming weird as well. With mixed feelings, Tang Wulin met his grand teacher. Scarlet Dragon Doluoshwasha was having tea in the courtyard. When he saw Tang Wulin entering through the door, the teacup in his hand was shaking mildly. He did not even feel the hot tea which had spilled over his hand. Wulin? Grand teacher, Tang Wulin hastily walked forward and knelt on one knee. In the blink of an eye, Scarlet Dragon Doluo jumped with a speed that was unusual for someone his age. He made a grab for Tang Wulin as a gesture to him to stand up. You brat, where have you been? Never mind that, everything's fine if you're okay. Did you think that small worlds are places that can be visited casually? Do you know that the crazy old man and I dredged the entire Tang sect? It's good that you've returned. The crazy old man almost went crazy for real. His bad temper is getting out of hand lately. I must tell him the good news. A soul call was made. Within 3 minutes, blazing Dragon Doluo Feng Wuyu descended from the sky. When he saw Tang Wulin, his expression darkened. He went over and gave him a slap. Tang Wulin dared not evade the assault. He staggered under the blow. It appeared forceful, but it did not hurt at all. Crazy old man, what are you doing? If you're going into a crazy fit at my place, don't blame me if I take it out on you. Shuasha was infuriated. What do you know? Step aside. Tang Wulin, you little bastard. I see that you still know how to come back. Let me ask you, did you slack off in your forging? Feng Wuyu stood akimbo. He shouted angrily at Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin dared not make a single sound. He replied hastily as soon as Feng Wuyu was done with his furious yelling. I think I did quite well, and I didn't slack off. I think I'm at least a rank 6 blacksmith. I was waiting to come back here and learn soul refining from you. Come with me. I'll have to check. He then grabbed Tang Wulin and leaped into the air. Wait for me, I'll go too. I want to keep an eye on you, in case you abuse this grand disciple of mine. Scarlet Dragon Doluo followed behind them. Tang Wulin was speechless. I haven't even completed the procedures to enter the inner court. Also, what should I do about the date festival tonight? He knew Feng Wuyu very well. Once he entered into his forging state, he could care less about the happenings in the world outside. It was fine for Feng Wuyu not to care about those things, but not Tang Wulin. He was sure that she would be going to the date festival as well. He had wanted to participate in the date festival. Whether he would succeed or not, he had to give it a go. How would he know if he did not try? For Shrek Academy, each year's date festival was the event which all the adult students looked forward to attending the most. Even the outer court disciples who did not manage to enter the inner court were in buoyant spirits. This was because they could witness the powerful strengths of their inner court seniors. Also, this was an event that would provide them the motivation to improve themselves. Although the outer court disciples could not obtain an endorsement for their marital relationships from the academy, in reality, neither would the academy meddle with their choice of partners. The only thing was, for Shrek Academy, if its students ended up together after the Sea God's Lake Date Festival, it would be considered a verification of the students' true love for each other and be regarded as an ideal relationship on Doluo continent. So, to just get a date during the Sea God's Lake Date Festival would not be a big deal. In any case, the date festival was very popular in the entire continent. Many would have loved to come and observe the festival. However, according to Shrek Academy's rules, nobody could enter the inner court to witness the festival except for the inner court disciples taking part in it. However, the outer court disciples, who were of age, and the teachers could witness the festival. This added to the mysterious mood of the Sea God's Lake Date Festival. Also, according to the rules, once the two students accepted each other during the festival, they would receive the blessing of fidelity from the Sea God Pavilion Master himself. In the event the couple wanted to divorce in the future, they had to answer to the Sea God Pavilion Master, who would be the mediator. If the reconciliation effort failed, the couple would then be allowed to divorce. This provided another form of protection to the longevity of their relationship. For Shrek Academy's outer court students, the Sea God's Lake Date Festival was the stuff of legends. The festival had become one of the motivating factors, if not the top reason, for the outer court disciples to enter the inner court. This year's festival attracted even more attention. News had spread that Enea, the dragon spear goddess, would also be at the festival. Whether she would be a participant or an attendee was unimportant. Just her presence alone was enough to attract the people and get their attention. The festival had been going on for 10,000 years since its inception. The rules have been modified over the years. No matter the changes made, the central theme remained the same. At the end of the day, they still had to verify the strengths of the inner court disciples and help them find their one true love. It was impossible for one to be successful at the festival if one did not have sufficient strength. This was a fundamental principle. On this front, Shrek Academy could not be argued with. One should forget about finding a partner if one lacks the strength. Instead, one should focus on one's cultivation before making an attempt. It looked to be just a simple date festival. However, for the outer court students, it provided much motivation. Especially when the students already had someone special in mind, they would need to cultivate more if they were to stand any chance of success during the festival. According to Shrek Academy's statistics, the stronger one was, the higher the success rate would be. This was a fact set in stone. There was also another interesting statistic for the festival. The success rates were high, which was over 60% for cases where the girl confessed to the boy. On the other hand, the success rate for a boy confessing to a girl was lower. This was due to the fact that there were generally more males. This was what the saying, "too many wolves and too little meat," referred to. Yu Zhenyu and Xie Xie were walking shoulder to shoulder. They came out of the inner court's lecture building. As they walked through the streets, their appearances attracted quite a few glances. At present, the disciples from the outer court were not allowed to enter the inner court yet. That was the reason the inner court was fairly quiet. Yu Zhengyu wore his usual white ceremonial dress. There were golden patterns in the shape of feathers on his white ceremonial dress. The patterns looked elegant and divine. Needless to say, he looked noble and showed no sign of being an upstart. This was the distinctive, traditional character of the Holy Angel clan. Xie Xie, who walked alongside him, was equally groomed. His black ceremonial dress had silver patterns on it in the shape of dragons. If Yu Jingyu was the divine sun, then Xie Xie would be a ghost traveling in the night. Both of them, in black and white, looked handsome and regal. When they walked together, how could they not be the center of attraction? This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.